Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this talk slash workshop. I'll start just by going over the schedule and what you can expect. So I'll start just by briefly introducing the topic, and we'll have a little bit of a group activity just to engage everyone. And then I'll be sharing a more in-depth personal narrative about my relationship with my hair and how it's influenced my artwork. And then after that, I'll be introducing key artists who have used hair in their work, or contemporary artists exploring hair as a form of protest or cultural identity. And then the remainder of the session, we'll be discussing our ideas for a hair liberation manifesto, alongside a simple exploration of material to keep our brains engaged, because I like to do things with my hands. Okay, and next slide.
Um, Show the slides now.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know when to put it. I didn't want to. Let me see. Sure. Um, Slideshow. Can you all see it?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so next one.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. So yeah, you're probably wondering why hair. And I guess I'll start with I'm non-binary. I use they them pronouns, and for me, identifying as non-binary means that I'm kind of opting out of all these expectations and rules that society puts on us in terms of our gender presentation and performance. And obviously, hair is a big part of that and a big part of our identities as a whole. And yeah, hair in all its forms has been a battleground for enforcing and defying gender norms. And I think it's really interesting how our perceptions of it shift depending on where we find it and who it's attached to. It's of the body, but it's also alien and weird when it's away from it. And yeah, what separates the hair on my head from the hair in my soup? Which leads me on to next slide. This is my hierarchy of hair, which is my attempt at creating a visual that kind of showcases how we think about hair from the most revered, celebrated, and romanticized at the top down to the most disgusting at the bottom. And you might be looking at it and thinking, it's not quite right, or it's not true for me. And that's because, if you click, next slide. So,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, there we go. We've got all these other influences that shape and form our opinions on hair. So down to our gender, the color of our skin, the texture of our hair, whether it's graying or thinning, what our culture or religion tells us about our hair, etc., etc. And as you're probably aware, we're going to be focusing mainly on the influence of gender in this talk. And this is because when I started the project, I don't think I realized the sheer expanse of the topic. Um, but also, interestingly, I think that gender, the only one that gender doesn't influence is the hair in your drain. Maybe you could argue like it's the long hair, and that's generally associated with women, but I don't know. Next slide. Before I talk about myself, I thought I'd open it up to everyone else. If you have anything you'd like to share about your identity and your relationship with your hair, you can type it in chat or you can unmute, whatever you want to do. And I'll start just by saying that I've been growing my hair since lockdown in an attempt to kind of explore and affirm my gender identity. Sometimes I hate it, sometimes I love it. I end up tying it up most of the time because we're in windy and wet Wales and it just gets in the way. M. Rose says, I can't imagine without my hair. I feel my hair is my personality, my confidence too when I have good hair. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Leave, maybe. ready to move on, or shall I wait a little more? I'll talk about the work.
Shall I speak? I actually can talk about my
Yeah,
own feelings
please.
about my hair. Well, I'm non-binary, although I felt a bit differently over the years, like it was more changeable. So I had long hair for a long time, and then I would put it like all up, and depending how I was feeling, now I'm more like with short hair, just talking about hair on the head. Um, and it kind of, yeah, it is weird because we're working with this binary of what is feminine and what is masculine, and how, we have set as society. And so really to reclaim that kind of identity, whatever identity we have, shouldn't have to do anything with the hair, yet here we are, aren't we? And so it's a bit of a right, I think, for people who are non-binary or gender non-conforming, not know exactly like what do we want to do with our hair, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, for now, I think for me, like hair short is what makes me me, and I can imagine myself with long hair.
Hmm.
But I
Nice.
think, and even though I deconstruct myself and what that means, and it's like I should be able to have long hair, and I have had it, yet here I am with short hair, and that's where I feel more comfortable. But one day there'll be in one point in time where
Hmm.
we won't even think about that, and our identity will be what it is, regardless of that length of hair. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's one of the things I forgot to mention already. Just like that hair is like one of the things that you have autonomy over. You don't have to go through like gender or clinic appointment. You can cut your hair off if you hate it. You can grow it out. You can put on a wig. Like there's so many ways to kind of change your appearance and how you feel about yourself. Yeah. And Laura Gwen Miles says, I love a fresh bleach on my head hair. I don't shave my armpit hair. Nice, nice. um, yeah, so thank you for all your contributions. Now we're going to go back to me. Next slide.
Yeah. It's not changing.
Oh,
No.
okay. So yeah, I wanted to start by jumping back to my uni days and talking about my work then, in the hopes that you kind of see a through line and where the seeds or the hair started to sprout, I guess. Um, so this is 2017. My yoga boy plates came from um, this time, and this is really when I first started exploring my sexuality through my work. And it was almost purely illustrative at this time. I was acutely aware of the importance of hair at this point. Obviously, dealing with naked bodies, that inherently brings up body hair. So there's a few splattering of hairs here and there, and I said it felt like cheating to leave the skin bare, like I was skipping a step or something, like not adding the extra detail. But yeah, I was trying to use them as opportunities to spread body positivity or neutrality, I suppose. And although they were using these pre-cut silhouettes, I could diversify within that with my drawing. And I remember feeling the need to shave my butt when I was a teenager, because I thought I had to in order to be seen as desirable, despite kind of the horrible itchiness and ingrown hairs that grow afterwards. And trying to think about like partners that are self-conscious of back hair or the idea of being too hairy, and also wanting to represent trans men and like belly rolls, just those kind of things that don't get celebrated enough about bodies, I suppose. Next slide. So in my third year, I started exploring more sculptural ceramics, and hair again became an important part of that. But I didn't think I knew why at the time. So here I began pressing clay on my legs in order to pick up the hairy texture. And this is made of porcelain. So I then patched these small small pieces of hairy porcelain together to make these larger columns, which kind of acted as a stand-in for hairy legs, I suppose. The one on the left here is about 1 meter tall. Yeah, so then I went back in with some ceramic stain and pigments to bring out these like subtle details. And there was something that I enjoyed about bruising at the time, kind of like, is it alive? Is it an object? And that these kind of nebulas or galaxies on the body, but also these points of impact and pain. And again, kind of playing with that contrast of beauty and discomfort. Next slide. Cool. Yeah, so alongside these more abstract pieces, I was also making these big torsos that were very classical inspired. And here they had these flat planes with the legs stopped or the chest abruptly ends. And even here, I was kind of scratching hairs into the surface of these sculptures. Yeah, just in a way to kind of bring it in. I don't think I realized why at this point either. I just wanted that element and I had to bring it in somehow. Next. Yeah, so I tried to include some pictures of me where I can find them. They have a reference of how I was changing and how I was presenting myself. Yeah, there's me building it. Next. So all of these pieces came together to create a bigger composition for my degree show work. And it had these various elements that kind of played around with the real and the unreal, from my ceramic socks to like the more 2D, 3D elements. Yeah, and also some little cuts that were made using the same method as the columns. So creating those hairy, uncomfortable ceramic objects. Yeah, next. And then this kind of installation went through various evolutions. And here it was kind of playing with more real elements and seeing it outside of like a less of a white cube setting. And again, seeing how that changed how you perceived the fake objects like the socks, and maybe they were a bit more believable in this instance when you're not expecting to see an artwork or yeah, something like that. Next. And then this was the last time that I showed this work. And yes, just showing again how the development has changed and how I think it's more of a middle ground between this white cube space and this more domestic setting, trying to bring in more of these objects and playing around with just elements that come together, I suppose. Next. So shortly after that picture was taken, Cashew came into our lives. What kind of artist talk would it be if I didn't talk about my dog? So this is my little potato to curly fry pipeline. And somewhere in between, COVID happened. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but a lot of us went through like an intense period of self-reflection. And so this is kind of when I came out as non-binary, I started to realize these things about myself and how I fit in with society or didn't fit in. And coincidentally, it's also when I started to grow out my hair. I never really liked going to the hairdressers, a combination of like anxiety and not wanting to make those decisions, which seem big and scary, I suppose. But yeah, this got me thinking about hair as a record of time. So Cashew is as old as my hair is long, bar a few dead trimmed ends. And next slide. So then came kind of the learning curve of how to take care of my long hair. Thank you, TikTok. Thinking about those kind of playground rituals of like girls braiding their hair in primary school and kind of how, I don't know, that wasn't for me, it wasn't allowed to me, I suppose, in a way, or like I wasn't, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. And I guess I was kind of starting to see the uglier side of having long hair, like the painful knots, my partner accidentally leaning on it and pulling it, clogged drains, etc. And then part of that was learning that I should have brushed my hair when it's wet in the shower, and then collecting the hair that would just naturally come out. And an attempt to stop the drain blocking, I was kind of throwing it onto the tile wall, and kind of drawing with it. Eventually, it led to that. I don't know how. I guess it's kind of something I did as a kid, kind of drawing on the condensated water on the window of the shower. So I guess it's an extension of that. Um, yeah, there's something really beautiful about the delicacy of it, but also it's quite visceral and disgusting, and it has this interesting reaction again. And if you press next, yeah, you can see that they don't last, they don't stay there. And yeah, this is kind of what I wanted to develop with on your face when I saw this opportunity. Next slide. So this is jumping forward to kind of not far before Christmas, of Christmas just gone. So I was making these small thinking objects in ceramics that explored various textures and techniques, as well as some that kind of vented my frustrations I had about people asserting their gendered expectations over me, particularly in the gay dating community. I was too femme for having long hair, too masc for having a beard or body hair, and somehow my body's ability to produce these hairs was enough of a basis for people to reject me on that, and even asserting what I should do with my body so that they'd be willing to sleep with me, like saying things like time for a haircut or you should shave it. And yeah, I don't know, just the frustrations that came with that. As a neurodivergent person as well, I think texture is a big thing for me. I hate the feeling of shaved hair. Like, I much prefer soft and fluffy over sharp and itchy. So yeah, I was making these objects that kind of explored those ideas, and I just kind of arranged them and on the floor in the studio, and realized that they were much stronger as a collection than individually. They had a lot of similarities to like Roman votive offerings. If you press next, you should see. So yeah, ancient Greco-Roman people would often offer these modeled body parts at religious sites, and often ask for healing or give thanks for cures. And yeah, they were dedicated to gods of medicine. And yeah, I don't know if they thought they worked or not, but I loved them as objects. So these are the kind of ideas I was working with before coming to the setup of the exhibition in Elysium. Next. So then I kind of realized that this is the direction I wanted to go in. And I went back to my tried and tested method of making a load of things and figuring out how they sit together afterwards. I don't have a picture of the whole installation, but I've tried my best to collage a few detailed pictures together, but you'll just have to go to see it, I suppose. Yeah, it's a combination of ceramic pieces, found objects, and my hair. Hopefully you can kind of see the elements of those votive offerings in there, but also it's my own take and kind of spin on it. And it's kind of, next, it's made up of these smaller compositions, I suppose. For instance, the two femme hairbrush next to this ceramic plate that I made from extruding clay. And next. So this is another one of those compositions, and it's one of my favorites from the installation. I kind of see it like a hairy rainbow, but also kind of referencing those still life paintings you see in the museum. Yeah, and the ceramic objects here, I didn't make them. They are found objects that I had in my room. and it's actually where I would store my clumps of hair that I got from the shower. So they dry in the little teacup, and then once they were dry, they graduate to the sugar bowl and get stuffed inside. And they mostly just sat there for the duration of the project until I came to set up, basically. And I like the idea of adding in this little lowly hair tie in terms of like the composition and kind of elevating this object that comes in hundreds and breaks and gets lost. And yeah, I don't know. I just like the idea of placing it next to these more considered and like ornate objects. Next. So here's more details. So this image on the left is made up of very thin ceramic strands that are keep creeping over the top ledge above the previous works. So I wanted to kind of explore the idea of like living, growing organism, that it's sentient, kind of, yeah, moving and creeping through all these spaces. And at the bottom here, we have a flocked razor borrowed from Luke Roberts. So yeah, flocking involves running a statically charged current into whatever it is you're flocking, and then the fibers kind of stick in place and they stand on end. So it creates this really nice hairy texture. Yeah, and then beside that, I placed all these little tiny ceramic fragments which resembled shaved hair. And most of these came from the ones at the top breaking as I was trying to install them. But I expected that to happen, obviously, because they were so delicate and fragile. But I just kind of went with it and ended up covering the whole floor in these little fragments. Next. So here, sorry. So here I'm kind of, what do I want to say? I've got this piece of hair that I made into a rope slash cordage, I think they call it when it's like a tiny rope. I don't know. And hopefully you can kind of see that the left piece is hanging by this piece of hair. So again, playing with the idea of hair as this like strong material, and also contrasting that against the ceramic, the smoothness, the heaviness of the ceramic, and playing with the fake versus the real again. So we, at the bottom of the fingers, we have clay pretending to be hair, and at the top we have hair pretending to be rope. And then on the right is again kind of playing with scale and the idea of familiar objects becoming unfamiliar or even animalistic, like the teeth of a hair clip and these tendril-like hair pieces that sit within it. Next. This is like another composition that kind of sits within the bigger installation. Yeah, so this is the one piece of hair that was actually cut from my head, and it comes out of the end of the penis, obviously, as a symbol of masculinity. Again, kind of going back to those votive offerings and classical sculpture references. And it sits alongside this ceramic phone of a grinder screenshot that I decorated and made. I don't know how to describe that. And yet again, people just showing that people asserting their assumptions over me and their expectations over me. And yeah, they often I would find that they thought that all that separated me from a trans woman is my facial hair and body hair. So you should shave it was like the common thing they would say to me. And it being, I kind of liked that it was ambiguous. It was kind of left open. Is it my face? Is it my butt? Is it everything? Yeah, next. And then this is my little Saltburn moment. Something I did mention earlier is like the other side of the coin. People kind of fetishize the dirtiness of hair as well, and like the musk and all these kind of things. And I just I just want it to be neutral. I don't want it to be either of those things. So again, I was playing with the idea of these drains and reflecting these comments that people were making towards me about the various hairs that adorned my body. So kind of playing with the idea that I was sacrificing the words to the drain to kind of release that negativity, but maybe they're also stuck there, clogging up the drain in my mind. Um, yes, I like the idea of the drain standing in as like an orifice, an exit hole, but obviously not exclusively. And playing with hair as handwriting to varying degrees of legibility. I like that they kind of fade in and out as you walk past, and you can kind of only see them from certain angles. So on the left, we have lick here with an arrow pointing to the drain. And on the right, we have smooth question mark next to a hairy drain on the floor. This is all ceramics again. I don't know if you need to mention that. Yeah, next. And this is me attempting to bring those shower drawings from earlier into a gallery space. So I just kind of wet the surface of the tile and just start playing with the hair on the surface. And eventually, when I found kind of something I was happy with, I would just go over it with a bit of resin to kind of create those watery drop surface that you'd see in the shower, and I associated with these drawings at that point. So here, hair is pretending to be line or pencil marks, and I don't think you can kind of see it until you get close. And on the right is me kind of breaking up a larger tile into these smaller tiles with hair acting as the grout. And then again, we have another drain at the top of this kind of composition, which says hairy hole. Next. More drawings on these tiles and playing with kind of responding to the space, the weird angles of Elysium and the ledges. It has all these like little nooks and crannies that I wanted to play with, and I wanted to kind of highlight these underrepresented spaces. I don't know, underutilized spaces. So yeah, you'll see these throughout the exhibition if you go. They're kind of scattered everywhere. They might catch your eye. You might completely miss them. I kind of like the idea of it. Next. Here is a column that goes from the ceiling to the floor, and I covered in these pyrometric cones, which is what we use to measure temperature in the kiln. So basically, when they reach the correct temperature, they start to melt and they bend. And I collected a big bucket of these. Okay. So yeah, I collected a big bucket of these back in uni, and I was excited to finally make use of them. I always saw them as like talons or claws, but I think it really works well as a stand-in for hair. This almost became my new hairy column in a way. Next. I took everything there, but I promise you that I did bring some things back with me. So there's more elements here of me hiding things around the exhibition space. I really should have made a checklist or like an Easter egg hunt kind of thing. But yeah, playing with the idea of like hair getting everywhere, like stuck in your teeth, in your butt crack, you know, in the floor, in your food. Just kind of playing with those ideas a little bit. And next. And oh, I forgot to name this. This is my other work in the exhibition. I kind of see it as separate from all the other bits that I've just shown you, but also similar topics, similar ideas behind it. So it's kind of half self-portrait, half grotesque hairy monster that walks on its hair. And I called it Hair of the Dog, because I wanted something that referenced hair, and also they look a bit hungover, to be honest, with their expression. Those kind of wonky imperfections. And I liked that the hair isn't really different from the skin here. So it kind of all blends into one, apart from those little subtle hints of color and skin. Um, yeah, no. Okay. So that's all my work from the show. And now I wanted to talk about some of my influences, just people exploring hair and things that I found exciting when I was researching the topic. So this is Maret Oppenheim's Object, and it kind of holds a lasting impression for me. It's a piece that I've revisited since my university days. Um, Oppenheim was a prominent female surrealist in a male-dominated movement, and she often used like witty and provocative art to explore female sexuality and challenge societal norms. Notably, in Object, she transformed a traditionally refined tea set into a confronting and unsettling sculpture by covering it in animal fur. And you kind of get this visceral animalistic transformation again, a trope which is, I don't know, often used to silence or shame women who kind of deviate from societal expectations. And I think it highlights Oppenheim's keen awareness of women's complex position, both within surrealism and society in general. It's just one of those objects that I love. I love looking at it. I love thinking about it. I love thinking about what it would be like to kind of touch it, to put it to my mouth. But also it's gross. It's just as simple as that as well. Next. So this is Donna Lawson's work, and Donna is a former hairdresser and shoe designer turned artist. So she creates sculptures and jewelry from salon hair, and her work kind of explores strength and fragility within society, using hair as a symbol for that. And her hair installations kind of explore exploited labor, often women's labor, in global corporations, kind of with the hair industry, wig industry, challenging these industry norms. And by using human hair, she kind of hopes to highlight the ethical cost of cheap labor in poor nations, urging consumers to consider the impact of their purchases. She also brings back old hair art. She kind of revives this tradition of hair art made by Victorian women, a craft that they kind of expressed throughout their lives to show sentiment and to show their voices. Offering new ways of seeing the past and the present. I think she uses hair to tell stories about society and employs kind of felting techniques in her creations to create these complex shoes and things. I think it's completely made of hair as well. There's no kind of structure underneath there keeping it together. And obviously, the shoe is also a symbol of life's journeys and exploring themes of consumerism, beauty, and discomfort. Next. Then I wanted to talk about Anya Paintsall's work. So Anya is a Welsh Ghanaian textile artist who creates these large-scale portraits. You've probably seen her work. It's everywhere at the moment, and rightly so. She draws inspiration from her childhood and kind of that lived experience of a Black person growing up in rural Wales, where you're most likely going to be the only family that has kind of textured hair. And obviously, she combines rug making, embroidery, and Afro hairstyle techniques. And she explores non-representative depictions of the Black figure and is kind of motivated by the feminist history of textiles and craft versus fine art debate, which we see a lot in ceramics as well. I thought it was interesting to put her after Donna because she chooses specifically mentions choosing rug hooking for its association with working class labor and kind of rejecting those Victorian connotations because she cannot relate to that at all. She talks a lot about emphasizing these physical labor involved in her art. So it's not made with those kind of tufting guns. It's all done by punch needle, and it's a really time consuming process. Next. just need a little drink. Here, I wanted to talk about Frida Kahlo's painting. And she painted this shortly after her divorce from her husband. And it's kind of a departure from how she normally paints herself. Obviously, she's very masculine here. It contrasted with her usual traditional Mexican dresses. And yeah, she's just cut her hair off. She's holding the scissors, a lock of hair, and all of her hair is surrounding her. And above it, it reads, "If I loved you, it was because of your hair. Now that you're without hair, I don't love you anymore." And yeah, kind of exploring those ideas of, do we have to subscribe to certain beauty standards in order to be valued and cared for? And when I was researching this image, there was kind of a lot of over intellectualizing and also somehow reducing the convent, reducing conventional roles, I don't know, around this image. So whether she is passive and therefore feminine because she's not actively using the scissors, or she's holding the scissors at crotch height, and that implies castration. So she can't be masculine. And it's just, I don't know. Growing a mustache is a passive act, and I think that shows that, like, for facial hair, passivity can be signified. I mean, passivity can signify that things are masculine as well. And a reminder that also this is all painted. Like, this is not hair, it's not real hair. It's painted, and that was a conscious, active decision by the female artist. Further questioning that kind of stability of the relationship between masculinity and acts. Yeah. Next. Here we have Clay Bowler's durational performance. So it involved kind of growing his hair from the initial request for gender affirming healthcare. And yeah, he didn't cut it until he received that surgery, basically. And I think that he mentions how the growth of the hair served as both a record of this dysphoria he experienced from having the hair, and also, he mentions that the hair growth served as both a record of the dysphoria around his chest, and then also the hair itself was a source of dysphoria. So upon receiving top surgery, he cut all of his hair with a surgical scalpel in a commissioned performance, during which there were recordings of questions from the gender identity clinic that were being played. And the total wait was 4 years, 9 months, and 3 days. I just think it's a really intelligent piece. I don't know. I think it's amazing. I think it explores themes of bodily autonomy again, and also hair as a measure of time. Yeah, I think unfortunately the wait will probably be even longer than that if he did that today. Next. And so this is Alok Vade Menon, and they are a gender non-conforming, trans femme, author, poet, comedian, and public speaker. They promote trans visibility through bold portraits on social media, but often face online harassment for their appearance. They challenge the idea that trans people must kind of conform to traditional beauty standards, such as hairlessness and medical transition, to be taken seriously. Often these ideas even get perpetuated within the trans community in order to be an acceptable trans person. And yes, they argue kind of that the beauty standards are often narrow and exclusionary, focusing on white, thin, hairless bodies which don't represent the majority. They also believe that hair should not be gendered, and criticizes the body hair removal industry for promoting unrealistic expectations around this. And they hope to kind of broaden representations of trans people with their work. Next. I think this is the last artist I'm talking about. And this is Alex Bizet with her Hair Matters collection. So Bizet is a material researcher and designer, and that she investigates the relationships between bodies, space, and societal narratives, often exploring the experimental features of materials, which hopefully we'll do later. So yeah, I think she questions society norms, she questions societal norms through design, aiming to create dialogue and new narratives for minorities. Her research kind of explores design and material innovation to shape future scenarios. And hair has kind of historically been used as self-expression again, but has often been standardized by industry and societal conventions. So Hair Matters is Bizet's platform to kind of discuss hair diversity and equality through jackets and headpieces that she exaggerates hairstyles with, kind of aiming to claim visibility against this increasing standardization.